Welcome back to Dum-Dums and Dragons, where improvisers who've never roleplayed before journey into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I am the Grand Wizard Bukake, your host. Returning to Vallakia from the Wizard's Mansion, our heroes found the town razed. Not Petyr Baelish adopted a monkey and claimed the icon of Ravenloft. Alyn discovered a burgomaster's ghost, and Quinny saved the group from a scarecrow ambush before Reginald was given the Sun Scythe. What will our heroes do now they've received an invitation from the Strands? Find out next on Dum-Dums and Dragons.
You find yourselves sitting in the black carriage of Strahd von Zarovich alongside Xanthus.
This fucking guy.
You sit in charged silence, having read Strahd's invitation, which was extraordinarily polite and formal in a perhaps vaguely unsettling way. It read, "My friends, know that it is I who have brought you to this land, my home, and know that I alone can release you from it. I bid you dine at my castle so that we can meet in civilized surroundings. Your passage here will be a safe one. I await your arrival. Your host, Strahd von Zarovich," and then there's a bracket and the letter S and another bracket.
You can kind of sense there's it's like the static charge that you build up when you like rub a balloon on your head, but like just over my entire body.
So Xanthus is nervously flipping the invitation over and over in his hands.
Why are you nervous?
Well, ma'am, having a...
Why are you calling... Ma'am?
It's not
having
Xanthus, it's...
a wizard look at you like that. Sorry, did you say not your Xanthus?
How many of you are there?
Is your name Xanthus?
It is. There are less of us by the day if he continues to work his will. Did you meet the other one, the scary one?
Yeah.
Yeah, she sort of has a problem with
same one.
Xanthus Prime, if we want to go with that term.
Yes, the one who seeks to become the Singularity, right?
Wait, prove you're not him.
I'm scared right now. Roll an insight check.
Nat 20.
He is legitimately very scared right now.
All right, but I just do like my eyes watching you.
Whatever you say, history. I understand your
eyes are on you.
Trepidation and your rage. He came for me as well. He is killing, I guess, copies. He is insane enough to believe that if he does it, he will become the one, the Singularity. I took the only escape I could find, which was here. It is not a great place, but it does keep me safe from Xanthus.
You're safe from Xanthus here?
Yes, it's awkward because that's me, but yes, from...
Call him Killer Xanthus?
Sure, from Killer Xanthus. Even he dares not challenge the Strahds. It's interesting. They've achieved what he is attempting to achieve in an entirely different way.
They seem to be cooperating.
Yes, and unlike Killer Xanthus going around murdering, all of us, the Strahds have chosen to work together.
Do you find that your strength is increasing as he kills more of you?
No, there's a ritual to it. Involves a lot of heart eating. It's not really my jam.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So if we kill a bunch of Strahds, it won't make the other Strahds stronger. They have to eat each other's hearts.
No, the master, he tried that once or twice when the first few arrived, but after he realized that he didn't have the entire ritual, and I sure as shit wasn't going to tell him, so...
I'll bet Strahd doesn't really have a heart either.
Also a tremendous problem. Well, actually, and he, you notice that his lips grow tight and his eyes kind of go wide. And Alyn, you're carrying the Tome of Strahd, right?
Yeah.
His eyes kind of like knowingly look to the tome, and then he kind of raises his eyebrows.
Yeah, what about it?
His lips are pulled tight, and he just nods at the book.
I think you might need to read more of that book, and he's only allowed to say so much.
He raises like a knowing eyebrow to Reginald.
But what could he possibly be trying to say?
I open it. Just start flipping through.
As you open it, the book falls immediately open to a chapter called My Heart. And after several pictures of Bryn, there is a description of a ritual that Strahd undertook. He, knowing that more of him were arriving by the day and that some of them might have the same designs on him that he had on the first few who arrived, it would seem that Strahd Prime, part of the reason he's been able to kind of have more power over these others was he actually removed his heart entirely and has built it into the castle, which has become a living thing. Located at sort of the height of the castle and the tallest tower is the location of Strahd's heart. And from the sounds of things, he will be unstoppable as long as it can continue to take damage for him.
Well, friends, that's the place he can't escape from. The building he can't move his heart out of.
Yep.
Xanthus kind of gives you like a close, and then you see him kind of like almost like working his jaw back out a little bit, and he says, "Yes, certainly. Master Strahd does enjoy his residence. You should ask him for a tour. I'm sure you would be particularly excited to see his tomb."
Oh, yeah, it's the coffin thing. Got it.
I think it's a list of things now, right? It's one or the other won't do from what I'm gathering here.
Yeah, we got to kill him during the day in his coffin and burn down the castle. It's going to be complicated. There's a lot of them.
You're cool with us discussing this, right?
Xanthus merely says, I was told to extend all courtesies to Master Strahd's guests, so this would seem to be such a courtesy.
So why does he want to have dinner with us?
Would seem you've caused quite a kerfuffle around Barovia, and also, and he reaches inside his jacket and he pulls out 2 additional invitations, and he hands one to Quinny and one to Not Pete.
What the hell is this for?
From my Lord Ninja and my Lord Hawaiian, respectively.
What? And I open the invitation.
And it in kanji says that you can mystically read, I can't wait to dance with you tonight. And then there's just like a sketch of a moon, and then like 2 crudely drawn stick figures dancing under the moon.
Not Pete opens his invitation.
And the petals of a lei fall out into your lap, and it just says, "You make my heart do a luau."
I'm like, oh, and like, but with a huge smile, just like, I hate that so much.
All right,
massive smile though,
Yeah,
seeing one upset and the other excited, Reginald sitting in the middle, who's like a little too big to really share a carriage bench, but they're on either side of him. Like he's just somehow got the middle seat as the biggest guy. And he's still extra potence large, because that doesn't go away unless he wills it or rests. He's going to be like, all right, I don't think either of you two should bunk solo tonight. So, Quinny, I think you and I are going to share a room. And Alyn, you should share a room with Horny McGee over here.
Hey. That's fair.
So the carriage pulls up to yet another drawbridge. This one is down, and you've kind of been winding up towards Castle Ravenloft. This one, however, Quinny, you kind of squint against it, and you can see this one is fully illusionary, but the carriage seems to be able to pass over it without difficulty. You get the sense if you had approached on foot, you would have fallen. And Xanthus just says, Yeah, I wouldn't recommend looking down. It is quite a drop.
Can I?
You look down. It is quite a drop.
Wasn't lying.
Not Pete looks over too, like tries to whistle but can't. Like he's like, whoo.
You just hear woo woo woo, and then fuck you. Going back up. And then, sure as shooting, you pull up to the famed gates of Castle Ravenloft that I am currently trying to open on my iPad that is not cooperating with me.
Tom,
Yes,
knowing demonic conference calls exists, is it possible for Reginald to give Quinny a quick call?
No, unfortunately, Baba Yaga needs to initiate it.
Cool.
She's the owner of the conference line. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
She paid for the full year membership and everything. But, Reginald, I will say, given that your Pact Blade is kind of attuned to the same energy, I feel like if the two of you lay a hand on either of your Pact Blades, you can speak through it mentally. It's like a backdoor into the conference line.
Cool. Because I can randomly just have it pop up. It doesn't do anything unless I launch it. I'll just do a nice big stretch over to one side of him and then just tap him on the shoulder with the bottom of the pommel of the
It's like shrinking away from what is this?
And then you just hear like Reginald's custom ringtone, which just sounds like a horse approaching with like a jangle, and then you just hear it pull up and it goes, "Hey!" And it'll just keep doing it until you answer.
What?
That is some A+ BoJack Horseman ringtone bullshit, sir, and I'm here for it.
Alrighty, so it seems like you guys really have a problem with this Xanthus guy. And this Xanthus here is clearly maybe on the side of good, but stuck on the side of evil right now. However, if Xanthus is trying to kill all the Xanthuses, you kind of need to convince Alyn that we need to keep this one alive and protected with us.
I don't know if she needs convincing, but I'll mention it. I think I trust Alyn. I think she fully understands that this Xanthus is completely innocent and is not deserving of any of her wrath or anything like that.
Cool. I mean, having had a discussion with Alyn over the last 2 days, and knowing that she was away for several years in a much worse world, Alyn's only obsession right now is with killing all assholes or anyone who tries to make anyone do things. And this Xanthus, she will be very suspectful of. And Alyn's response to things when threatened is horrific, overpowering violence. This Xanthus is very squishy. Just a thought. You've got a lot of faith in people, and that's pretty high risk currently, because you don't actually know these people that well.
Then I'll just say out loud, hey, I'm just thinking out loud here, but, if Xanthus gets stronger every time one of them dies, even though there's a ritual involved, when he looks at Reginald, he would need to do the ritual to get stronger from the death of his Xanthus. It seems like it would be a bad call to just kill this guy. He seems like he's just kind of...
His eyes go wide and he's like, oh, hey,
Who is talking about killing him?
Yeah, who is talking about killing me? Is that what you were doing with your, I believe that's a Pact Blade?
I don't know what you're talking about. There's just no blade out of his hand anymore. He's like, I was just stretching. You guys are weird.
No, it was just me thinking about it. Just I'm a bloodthirsty murder child, so I can't help it sometimes. Just thinking about death and killing.
Sir,
I go killing again.
I will have you know that when I was handed Hawaiian Strahd's invitation for Mr. Not Petyr Baelish, it was originally packed with pineapple circles, which I removed, knowing that they would soak through the invitation, thus render it useless, that I've been carrying in my breast pocket to save him the hassle for quite some time. It is most unpleasant, and I've done it out of consideration for someone I've never met who's now talking about killing me.
Oh man, consummate professional. Well, I'm convinced, and I'm sure everyone else in the carriage who is even more convinced than I was, because I'm the skeptic who thought about killing you. So,
on that note, Mr. Baelish, would you like the pineapple circles? Rings, if you will.
I mean, I don't want to ruin my dinner, but yeah, I've always got room for pie. He wanted to put them in the invitation?
He did. His excitement about the luau pun was a little bit overwhelming, I suspect. He's never been one of the scariest Strahds.
Quinny like leans forward across Reginald and just whispers kind of too loudly to not be like, dude, your crush is an idiot.
No, it's not an idiot. I mean,
I would qualify him perhaps as an idiot, particularly compared to some of the others, but a very nice man.
He was going to mail you fruit slices.
but he has a good heart.
He does a hell of a hula.
And like again with a huge smile, I'm just like, I hate that so much. as Not Pete takes the pineapple, like clearly, like for everything that like Not Pete had said to like Isabella, everything they worked through, him kind of like trying to work through his own issues, just like that really like the blinders are on for Not Pete right now, like very clearly. And Will, just says like, and besides, who among us hasn't, done a goof, like say, trying to mail pineapple to someone, or sending all of your friends and tribe that you live and work with to die, and then to eventually become the army for your most feared and hated enemy. I mean, who among us?
That's right. Talk yourself through it. You're getting there. Quinny's like, yep.
Yeah.
Follow it up.
And then Not Pete is who's like just kind of like you can see like twisting the invitation a little bit in his hand, but then makes the decision to put it out of his mind and just takes the pineapple. It's like, you know what? Maybe he thought they were candied, right? And then it wouldn't have soaked through. That is acidic.
And looking at the three people surrounding him, the sociopathic murderous wizard, the dismissive, rude, cares about no one assassin, and the man who has fallen in love just because someone's handsome, even though they committed genocide against his people, Reginald feels a creeping horror inside his heart when he realizes he's the only hero present in a traditional sense. Like, of these four people, he is both the moral center and the hero. And that is a dark realization for him going into a castle full of vampire clones.
Meanwhile, Giorgio is sitting there eating part of the pineapple ring that fell. And he's just thinking, everyone I ever knew died and burned in that village. And the burgomaster's reign of terror over me has finally ended. Now Giorgio can become the monkey he was always meant to be. Num 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 num. First, I will hurdy-gurdy. Then I will hero-gurdy. Num 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 num. And then he just looks up and he's like, wah!
Jesus.
And Reginald just pick up Donkey Jr., who's also too large, and put him on his lap and just start petting him. And it's like shoving
Donkey's in this
Petyr
carriage?
Baelish and Quinny back and forth. Oh, I'm not leaving him behind. You weird psychopath.
Xanthus just kind of shakes his head and he's like, yes, I would be inclined to agree with Mr. Tingler. Leaving a sweet support donkey out in the wilderness of Barovia is a terrible idea. Once you've met a were-donkey, you will understand why I live in fear.
Suddenly, like, all of my glaring at Xanthus has been, like, darting my head around, like, these moving donkey legs, just like, I'm watching you.
Yeah. And so the carriage pulls up to Castle Ravenloft. Castle Ravenloft is a massive structure. And you can tell that it was built on top of an even more ancient structure. It's kind of one of those towers. It's got sort of a massive central building, and then you can see a large sort of circular tower that, based on the book you've been reading, the Tome of Strahd, would clearly be where the heart would likely be. There's a sort of a massive parapet surrounding it, and it looks just like truly, truly impressive. So impressive that if someone wrote about it in the second edition of D&D, everyone would just keep wanting to make the adventure over and over and over again because it's so much fucking fun. As you approach, we are talking full Transylvania scene, dark clouds, lightning that seems to be structured almost purely over the castle itself. And as you kind of look back the way you came, all of Barovia seems to be just covered in this mist that you seem to have risen above. But it almost feels like all of it's, it's not illusionary, but In a way, Barovia is the moat around Castle Ravenloft. And I think for the first time you kind of recognize that all the horrors and monsters and everything else that are loose in that country almost exist purely to protect this castle you now approach. The gates are open. Obviously, since you're expected, there are flickering torches, and not Pete, just as the carriage kind of pulls up to the entrance, you think you see a couple of Vistani from your squadron kind of walk around a corner carrying barrels. It's unsettling, but in the beginning of Half-Life way where you can't really do anything about it. Xanthus opens the door for you and like puts down the tiny carriage stairs, and then just kind of like extends his arms for Donkey Jr.
Aww.
Yeah, we'll allow it. He seems nice.
May I take your donkey, sir?
I mean, that's up to the donkey. And I looked at Donkey Jr.
And Donkey Jr. kind of like readjusts himself a little bit, but he's got that goofy donkey grin that's on all the Jack Astor's merch, and he's just like, he snarf.
Well, go ahead, my friend. And he just raises his arms, accidentally shoving both Quinny and Not Pete back into their seats, and Donkey Jr. just launches it onto Xanthus.
There's just a slow motion moment of hello darkness, my old friend, as Donkey Jr. just like arms and legs flailing like the Nirvana baby. He's just soaring towards Xanthus, who just kind of looks up with a very Kif from Futurama, like, oh. And then the donkey just fucking flattens him, just knocks him right the fuck down.
Okay, good. I was getting really worried that I'd forgotten what size donkeys were. Like, we're just handing these farm animals back and forth?
Oh, yeah, no.
Like, I get it now.
It knocks him right down.
Jesus.
Admittedly, like, Donkey Jr. is a miniature donkey, but still, like, big enough to ride, but small enough that it's hilarious. But nevertheless, still more donkey than a non-jacked up serial killer psychopath Xanthus can hold. And you see Donkey Jr. actually levitate up off of Xanthus, and you see him kind of just like crawl out from underneath, and then he kind of lowers his hands, and Donkey Jr. reaches the ground. And he flicks his wrist, and the tensor's floating disc that he had summoned flies back into his hand and rematerializes into the gold serving tray.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, fun.
And he seems to just kind of put it behind his back, and it disappears. And he says, "Now, please, if you will follow me, Master Strahd is awaiting you, as is his queen."
As Not Pete steps out of the carriage and walks, he kind of like looks over his shoulder at where he saw those Vistani, and then looks back down at the invitation and like the lay petals in his hand, and it's just, he kind of sighs a little bit, the indecision clearly written over his face, but then presses on. And it was a real moment of potential character development.
Nice. I love to wave at those as they drive past. So as you step into the entryway to Castle Ravenloft, it is stunningly well built. Big stone colonnades around you, sort of a majestic red carpet that leads deeper in, massive closed wooden doors on which are etched flowers and vines, and just truly a work of tremendous craftsmanship. There are massive iron torches affixed to sort of all four corners, and the stone columns kind of in each corner rise up into sort of out of the top of them becomes a massive curled dragon sort of sculpture that are all kind of looking down directly into the center of the room. There are side doors off either side, and Xanthus says, yes, if you'll follow me, we'll enter through the main entranceway. And then you hear a loud, plastic slapping noise, like a and you look, and you see a striking figure with beautiful cheekbones and an incredible face that is mostly hidden behind a scuba mask in a full scuba suit and flippers, and he just goes, "Oh shit, the guests are here!" And he like looks around in a panic, and just like sticks his snorkel back in and just like fucking runs. And Xanthus again has a full kiff, like he says, You'll have to excuse Scuba Strahd. He is truly one of the least of us.
Wait,
This way.
so just to be clear, there's a Hawaii Strahd and a Scuba Strahd, and they're different Strahds.
Mr. Not Petyr Baelish, I will tell you I was equally confused by this, but yes, they are different Strahds, and they fucking hate each other.
How many Strahds are there? Like, if you had to ballpark it for us.
He kind of shakes his head and says, I'm afraid I haven't been here long enough to be able to tell you. I've been secreted away from time to time, but I can guarantee you there are at least 6.
Okay. I'll take that.
Like, Scuba and Hawaii were two of the most important aspects of Strahd's personality.
That's 33% of the theoretical total Strahds. Like, 1/3 of him is on vacation or underwater.
Which one did we kill?
You killed Arctic Strahd.
Arctic Strahd, yes.
Should have asked some questions about the Northwest Passage. Anyway, that's for me.
Well, now you'll never discover it, and if you do, there might be monsters on the ice. Who knows?
Seems like he's really a coastal guy overall. I mean, frozen, underwater, on vacation. Feels like Nova Scotia, maybe.
From what you know of 2099, at least, Alyn, it would seem more likely that just like Scuba Strahd is likely from an underwater world. Arctic Strahd is probably from some kind of ice world, and that's certainly what you saw, Reginald, when you used your fucking weird sight on the bones. So it's probably less just an activity they like, and more just that's what their world is, which 100% means there is a Hawaiian world.
There's also
like
maybe a
Lost in
Strahd
Paradise
wielding like laser weapons. That's great.
And most importantly, there is a world that's completely underwater, and the people who live there are not have not adapted to it at all. Like somehow, like scuba gear still has to exist.
Well, Kevin Costner hasn't found the way yet on the
found
girl's
dry land
back
yet?
map, so you know
Somewhere there's an all Borat bathing suit Strahd world. Somewhere there's everyone
I gotta
is
tell you,
dressed
that world
as Mike Myers
is
and Austin Powers.
very
world.
nice.
He's in search of Tatiana. He's constantly like, my wife.
All other Strahds are just like little girls. It works. This all tracks.
This is canon now. You realize that, right? Dear wizards of the coast, boy, have I got news for you.
Your story's real problematic. Fix some things. Also, Borat Strahd. Hire me.
Yeah. Give me money.
So you're brought through into kind of the sort of out of the foyer into a massive greeting hall. It is a sort of a long hallway, more columns, and sort of a grand staircase up either side, leading to an upper landing where there's just a fucking massive, massive picture of Tatiana and Quinny and Alyn looking at this like this is creepily similar to Bryn. And you notice, so that's kind of what you get. There's also gargoyles perched kind of at every corner of this room and kind of along. There's about 8, all looking down. Xanthus sees you clock them and just says, word of the wise, if you come back through here without me, bring a hammer. And then he guides you sort of around the side of the stairs into a dining hall. And you are immediately hit with organ music. Just like full-blown, just having at it organ music. Kat, what is the song that's being played?
The song is... Obviously, it's the song by The National. Like, this place is so fucking, like, hipster goth, right?
I was gonna say, it's them or Imagine Dragons.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, you know what it is? It's a mashup. It's a mashup of The National.
Imagine the Nationals.
Don't
Imagine
do
the
this to the
Nationals,
national,
yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Imagine national.
National Dragons.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, this track is truly radioactive. As you, so you enter...
Radioactive Karen.
And You see Strahd at the far end of the room, full like vampire collar up, cape out behind him, doing the full fucking Phantom of the Opera routine. And around this massive organ are statues of twisted bodies, all kind of like reaching out. It looks like just any single frame of the movie The Immortals, and or some fancy church somewhere. But very classical kind of sculpture, and they all seem to have a look of rapture on their face, and they're kind of grouped above the organ and then along the sides. Not Pete, you're horrified to see Isabella sitting sort of in a really non-Isabella dress next to this guy, and it's full like the big fucking collar, lots of ruffles. It's think like very much what you'd imagine like a Mina Harker type wearing from like Dracula.
Right, and it's not her color like at all.
It's not her color, and it doesn't look like she can do anything in it. Like it is definitely one of those like, well, breathed in for the corset, and now I get to move 3 inches for the rest of the day, which is not Isabella's jam at all.
The dress is wearing her.
Yeah, exactly. And to your horror, you can see that there's red on her lips that slowly begins to drip down one side, and she has fresh bite marks on her neck. And she seems to just be kind of tapping her foot along with the tune as Strahd just
hates nationals.
Jams. So a long dining room table has been laid for all of you. A tremendous feast has been laid out. And Xanthus kind of leans in and he says, so I know this is all rather unpleasant and a bit awkward. I will say the food is excellent. And despite most of the food in this horrific place, none of it's people. So feel free.
That's great. I mean, I've had cannibal stew before, but this smells better. All right, let's get into this.
Not Pete just kind of like looks at Reginald like what it was like, no, we don't have time to get into that right now.
Oh, sure, yeah. Look at me like that. Like you've clearly never gone to war with a Minotaur detachment. It's that or they eat you. Oh, judgy. And then he just sits down and eats a giant turkey leg. I feel like there's always a giant turkey leg for a man his size.
We will abstain from the meal. He pats his belly and says, I'm good. I had bear stew before getting here, so I'm all set.
So the music reaches a crescendo, and then just the beat drops and Strahd finishes, and he turns on his bench. And he's wearing like the big red stone necklace. His hair is in a widow's peak. He's wearing like a ruffled shirt under a black tuxedo, big fucking red cape. And he just says, welcome to Castle Ravenloft. I'm so glad that all of you could join me today.
Just biting down the urge to call him Professor Stereotype, like just.
Alan's face is also like scrunched up and like, well, like this.
You hear a noise from the back of the room, and Xanthus is just kind of like.
Just like turning on, like the goatee shifts into charming diplomacy mode. Kind of like my posture straightens and yet somehow also seems more relaxed. Like it's just, it's an art that Not Pete is practicing now. And he says, thank you so much for the invitation. You have a lovely home.
Oh, thank you. It has taken centuries to make correct, but now it is finally perfect. I finally have my darling wife here.
Not Pete clocks the sign, was like, and turns to Isabella and is just like, Isabella, it's wonderful to see you. How are you? Like, just like really trying to assess the situation with Isabella, like noting that, the fact that she was like tapping her foot along to an Imagine Dragons and the National Mashup, what she's wearing, the fact that she's like with this guy who has a fucking widow's peak and an accent that's just can only be described as awful. So just like checking in on her, and yeah, so.
She just kind of twists her head towards you, opens her mouth, and you see fangs and blood sort of dripping from her lips. She just says, "Full."
Well, that was to the point. Okay. Get it?
Oh.
Joke.
Puns, and Strahd goes, "Oh yes, puns. Delightful."
And like in the back of my head, I'm just like, Isabella always loved puns, right? I assume she would love mine.
Alrighty, so, he just takes a big mouthful and he's like, "So why are we here?"
Oh my god, is that how you're eating? Like with your tongue, like,
it's a giant, like one fist just bite off, choke down the largest bite he can eat. Because he figures he might have to kill this guy, but he has the military habit of eating whenever he can, so he's just trying to choke down as much food as possible.
So, Strahd, like, gestures very grandly and says, "You have been causing a lot of trouble in my realm." And then you hear a fucking door slam, and it's like a gunshot went off. The entire room rumbles. And Strahd looks like, he like swoops his cape over his face, and he looks in horror to the left. And standing in the doorway is the man from the pictures you've seen, the man you kind of imagined Strahd to be. Yeah. So very imperious, fucking perfectly coiffed hair, great cheekbones. He's like Hawaiian Strahd without the fashion atrocity. And he just kind of raises a hand and he says, "Your realm?" And Strahd's like, says, "You will have to excuse me. I had hoped to be here to greet you myself. I see I didn't make it before stereotype Strahd." I already wrote it down. "You can see yourself out, Stereo, I assume." And stereotype Strahd is like, "I am gone." And he turns into a bat and flies away. And then Isabella just kind of like sighs. And as she stands, not Pete, she just kind of looks at you, and she does something weird with her jaw. Can you roll a perception check, please?
Yes, absolutely. 6.
Okay, you're not sure, but you feel like you see her teeth move. Like they might not really be attached.
Like my goatee twitches in interest, almost as if my goatee is trying to tell me something. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, "Not now, goatee."
And then she sweeps away, following stereotype Strahd. And actual Strahd Prime enters the room and just says, "You have my sincerest apologies. I understand we are enemies, but there is really no need for that. I understand also that Scuba Strahd interrupted your arrival. I have spent a lifetime trying to make this place austere and magnificent and impressive. And these fucking clowns. Anyway, please be seated. Enjoy your roasted phoenix leg there, good sir. Used to be good for resurrection, now it's just good for noms. Am I right? I'm sorry.
You're not wrong. And then he just throws the empty leg over his shoulder
Xanthus
and
catches it with a mage hand and just like pockets it.
Throws an empty plate that was full of mashed potatoes that he shammed his face off to the side, and then he'll just take a whole loaf of bread and get it. So you got a carb load if you're gonna fight.
The plate shatters, and you see Strahd kind of shuddering, just says, "That was part of my new cookware. Easy come, easy go, I suppose. Now please, sit. And a chair just kind of appears behind him, and he sits and kind of steeples his fingers and says, "So, I understand you killed my Arctic compatriot?"
Well, it's a very interesting story. You see, it's not so much that we killed your Arctic compatriot in so far as he got hugged and then blew up.
Well,
He was killed by a priest who put a bomb inside a dead lady.
Oh, was it a Tatiana golem?
It was a Tatiana doll. Yeah, it was Tatiana marionette. Yeah.
Okay, that is...
For what it's worth, he was into it.
I understand.
Yeah, and the priest did not make it.
Many of my counterparts have not learned the fine art of moving on. But...
I see.
Have you?
C'est la vie.
I hear you've remarried.
I have. Yes, she'll be along shortly, I believe. And then there's just a massive stained glass thing I didn't mention before that just like shatters, and Merle Streep just drifts into the room, and he nods to Xanthus, who sort of quickly does like a Witcher incantation with his hands, and the stained glass slowly reforms behind her. And she drifts down, and she just says, "Quinny! Not Pete! Oh, it's a regular Thieves Guild reunion. You come to see my new digs," and she like spins on her way down, just full of arrogance and joy. And you can see Strahd is like kind of biting his lip. This is clearly not an entrance he cares much for.
Yeah, Quinny through like gritted teeth. I think he also just like he has his hand on like a knife at the table and just like slides it off the table, and now has it like under. Just says like, "See, I'm pretty sure it's well understood in the Thieves Guild that if you kill an airship full of your fellow guild members, you're not really part of the Thieves Guild anymore."
Thieves Guild, please. What, you're working for Avalon Riker?
No, I'm just saying this isn't a Thieves Guild reunion. Only 2 of us are true thieves. You're something else, lady.
Well, I mean, I stole Immortal Life and, the chick who stole my awards, so I think I'm doing okay. Listen, Strahd, honey, these guys are kind of assholes, as it turns out. Not Pete's okay, but this one, and she points at Reginald, she says, "Oh, fuck, he's only gotten more handsome. This one broke my heart."
Oh, let's be clear. I'm actually... Assuming you're talking about Butthole, I'm that guy's brother from an alternate dimension. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, I was on a date with you, and then you tried to kill Quinny and fucking got yourself killed. I had to walk myself home, and I was very disappointed.
That was the me of this world. I'm alternate dimension. I didn't do any of this.
And none of you are scuba?
I assume there's a scuba, I guess, but I haven't met him. He's probably pretty cool.
Oh, right. Okay. Strahd, I guess this one's fine. So this one and Not Pete can stay. You should kill the other 2.
Merle. Come on. And Not Pete like turns up the charm as far as possible. Let's see if I'm gonna roll for that. For charisma, I guess. 17 total. So goatee shifts into pure charming mode. And just so you know, to the naked eye, the goatee looks the same, but there is a subtle difference. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it's there. And Pete, with like this winning smile, like reaches for a goblet which he hopes is filled with wine, and just holds it a bit languidly and says, "Now come on, Merle. I really do so appreciate you inviting all of us, but you did invite all of us, and I'm afraid we can't stay and enjoy the revelry of your company, and of course, good Sir Strahd's, unless our friends remain alive as well, at least for now. Come, I've heard better of you. You're better than this, Merle, and you know it, don't you, you little bitch of a mix."
Can you roll me a persuasion check with advantage? You've laid it on pretty thick, and the fucking goatee is in persuasion mode. So like,
okay, sure. Ooh, 30, baby.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Merle just looks at you and she's like, "Not Petyr Baelish. You stunning son of a bitch. You're right. Let's have a feast."
Come on, this is fun.
And she says, "Also, I understand that, soon we might be in-laws." And she
Don't
claps her
jinx.
hands, and Strahds begin to enter from all sides of the room. There's Scuba Strahd. There's Wild West Strahd, who just comes in with like clinking, like just with the full like
the
frilled
spurs
pants and the
yeah.
spurs, and he just keeps saying, "Howdy, Pilgrim. Howdy, Pilgrim." There's
The other Strahds.
yeah, the other Strahds. Ninja
And all the
Strahd
rest.
drops from the ceiling directly into a chair beside Quinny. Stereotype Strahd kind of like awkwardly shuffles in, clearly very embarrassed about his earlier display. And Xanthus kind of looks around, and he just quickly leans into Alyn and he says, "This isn't all of them. This is a trap." And then he leans back and he's like, "Welcome, masters. Masters one and all."
I want to subtly point towards Strahd Prime and whisper a message only he can hear that just says, "I'm not sure that Bryn would be too happy if you murdered her sister."
Fuck. Okay. His eyes narrow slightly, and he suddenly looks at you with like much more interest, and he nods to you and kind of raises a goblet of blood, and as he sips it, he sends a message to you saying, yeah, don't bring that up around my queen. Things have gotten a bit tense on that front, so if you could keep that under your hat for now, we will find time to talk." And then he winks over his goblet and takes a sip of blood. Says,
I just sit-
nothing
I
quite
just
like
sit back,
terrified
arms folded.
peasant, am I right? So dinner commences. The table is still laid, but a variety of other servants enter the room and begin pouring blood for everyone. And by that I mean they come in and they cut themselves and bleed into individual goblets. Everyone but the vampires is pretty grossed out by it, but the vampires think it's pretty dope.
Because it's freshly squeezed.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be fainting so hard.
Good thing it's
I would
not
be
you.
fired
It's
immediately.
just Alyn. So what is your play here, guys? You're stuck at a dinner with Strahd. It's like my dinner with Andre, but with Strahds. So what is obviously your goal is to eventually find the heart and the crypt. Alyn, you've actually just managed to get yourself some FaceTime with Strahd Prime. Hawaiian Strahd is sitting. He couldn't get a seat next to you.
He's too slow, like both in mind and in...
Yeah. You've got on one side you've got Scuba Strahd, and on the other side you've got Cowboy Strahd.
I'm so delighted by this.
Cowboy Strahd just like reeks of barn, and Scuba Strahd reeks of wet rubber. And they're both just kind of sitting next to you, and Scuba Strahd is like, "So." He's speaking through a snorkel. He's like, "So, what's your world like? Is it underwater?" And he pours blood into the top of his snorkel.
Well, I mean, obviously it's not.
Okay, well, that's not obvious to me. Hang on. And then he pulls his goggles up, and he's like, and he takes the snorkel out. He's like, "Oh,
And like blood drips out of the snorkel.
yeah, clearly, just like all over." But I mean, he's in a wetsuit, so it's gonna be fine. And he's like, I'm sorry, I mistook your excellent goatee for a underwater breathing apparatus of some sort." Oh, wow. And then he just immediately loses interest in you. He just like looks away, like no longer cares. You're not from Scuba. He don't give a shit.
Wow.
And Cowboy Strahd's like, "You'll have to excuse my partner over there. He's a bit touchy about those of us who don't come from under the sea."
But I mean, isn't that pretty much like everyone?
Yeah,
here?
it is just about everyone here. It's
Just about everyone. Is there someone else who comes from under the sea? Why, is it really downwards wetter, downwards better, really?
I mean, look, from what I've heard from him, no, it is neither of those things. Don't let him tell you otherwise. Yeah, he has a couple of the peasants go swim around the lake so that they'll taste a little bit more like what he's used to from back home, but otherwise, no. Turns out his Tatiana, half fish.
Huh. Like a mermaid? Like
Yeah, a
which
little
half
mermaid.
is the fish?
Oh, like the bottom half. It was
Oh.
really more of an attraction to her brain kind of situation. There could be no procreation. Then again, he's dead, so, what you gonna do?
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's very true. So, tell me about your world. Is it as full of colonialism as I imagine it is?
Yeah, it's really one of those sanitized Wild West worlds where it's just a bunch of cowboys living in a desert. But I can understand how that could turn real bleak real fast.
So this West world of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a party all the time.
No, it's going to make sense for about one season and then
Right.
just kind of be entertaining nonsense for two.
Wow. Well, I guess you're probably glad you've changed locations, and I kind of not Pete. This is interesting. I'm intrigued by the concept of this world that he comes from. Not sure if I'd want to stay for as long as it's that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun to pass through casually.
Yeah, and I look over at Hawaiian Strahd, trying to figure out if I can get some alone time with him for a couple reasons. One, obviously to search the castle, but two, I don't know, man. I came here for I got this extra invitation. I assume I'm gonna get something a little bit extra.
Yeah, he's constantly trying to catch your eye and also glaring at Cowboy Strahd and just adjusting his lay angrily.
Yeah. And I so Cowboy, he's a nice guy, but I look at Hawaiian Strahd and I'm just I gesture to the Cowboy Strahd next to me when he doesn't see it, just kind of point at him with my thumb. I'm like, and then I'm like, nah, and I'm like, you. And
the table bounces where he clearly starts and his knee hits the bottom of the table and you just see him kind of grab his knee and wince a bit and then kind of look at everyone else and nod. It's a full Kramer moment of just bashing himself and just being oh yeah no, I don't know what that was. That was terrible.
And I find this so charming and I hate it so much. And then I kind of is in my cup, is it wine in my cup or
yeah, sure.
Great,
I think
okay.
there's water, there's wine.
Great.
They've kind of set up everything they thought people could want. There's flagons of mead and there's freshly squeezed juice. They've really, particularly because Hawaiian Strahd's here, he wanted to make sure there was freshly squeezed papaya juice. So it's there.
Oh shit! I'm totally getting some papaya juice.
Okay,
Are you kidding me?
many peasants died to get this papaya. Many
This
people.
is blood papaya.
No. Just yes, yeah. I mean, in terms of its origin, it is single origin blood papaya, but it is still blood papaya.
Right. Okay. So taking a sip, and it's the most delicious papaya juice I've ever had in my life. You can really taste the sacrifice. And I kind of making eye contact with Hawaiian Strahd. I kind of nod over to where the hallway is, and then I stand up and I say to I can't remember his name, so I just call him Xanax. I'm Xanax. Which way are the restrooms?
He nods. He says they are unused by most. So,
Not what I asked.
congrats. They are that way. He says, do keep an eye on the gargoyles, though.
Okay. So I kind of I get up, fold my napkin. My goatee is self-cleaning, so that's fine. And
It folds in on itself and comes back out clean.
and it's not disturbing somehow. So as I get up, I make eye contact with Hawaiian Strahd. I just kind of nod again, and then make my way, I mosey on to the hallway where the washrooms are.
And pretty much as soon as you leave, Hawaiian Strahd just stands up and says, "I must check on my pig roast." And then he kind of looks around and just marches off. And as you look back, you see him like marching a different direction, but kind of nodding at you. You also realize he's in khaki shorts now. And you hear the flippity flop of his flip flops as he just goes in search of you. All right, so Not Pete has left. Reginald, what is your plan at this dinner?
2 parts. He would see Not Pete. It's not subtle. Like, it's a lot of across the table. And Luau gave it away. I think Not Pete could cover something up, no problem. Luau's a train wreck.
No. Hawaiian Strahd is not a subtle Strahd, as his name suggests.
Seeing that, and knowing Quinny is an asshole who can't keep a secret, there's no point in conspiring. So I think he'd be doing 2 things. One, he'd be looking around and trying to watch all the Strahds interact, because somewhere there is a coward or a traitor Strahd.
Right.
And he knows deep in his heart that's the him of Strahds. And if he can find that person, they'll probably help him because he's less scary than Strahd. And his other plan is just to wait and see if everyone gets corrupted. Because if they all just join the vampires, he could decide to do it or he could leave.
Right. Can you roll me a perception check, please?
Or he can leave. So easy.
Yeah.
That is an 18 on perception.
Why did we think of just leaving?
Stupid.
So simple and easy.
So, Reginald, I've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is you have determined there are 2 possible coward Strahds. Stereotype Strahd seems pretty committed to the cause, but in a really surface way.
Yeah.
He's trying very hard. However, you also noticed that Hawaiian Strahd had a couple sips off of like a peasant's hand, but didn't get the peasant to cut their hand open and bleed into a goblet. So there's already something a little bit different there. That's what you've got.
Interesting. All right, he's going to file that away. He's very into the idea of Luau Strahd because there are ways to play this out that he's into.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because technically, you don't want to leave a power vacuum in an evil castle. So clearly we need probably 1 Strahd, and Luau is an idiot. Most importantly, if you marry a Strahd, you become a Strahd. And I feel like Not Pete would make a pretty decent ruler to take the name and rule the Strahd and then make sure the Vistani are okay and no longer be aggressive. So Not Pete might be the solution here.
With that, Reginald Tingler decides to undertake his most dangerous mission of all, being a matchmaker.
This episode of Dum-Dums and Dragons features the voices of Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter, our amazing special guest, and our fantastic DM Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and all of Dum-Dums and Dice's art is by Decapitated Markers, or at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme songs are And Now for That Massive Coronary and Skipping Through the Orchestra Pit Part 1 by Peter Gresser, and our ad music is No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, all available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. But most importantly, we've got merchandise at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, or you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDUMBDICE. Now I'm off to do more magic. See you next episode. Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, Charles Grams, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord Abradovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.